welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me here today for another virtual shadowing session with Pre-Health Shadowing. We are a student-led nonprofit organization focused on creating flexible and accessible opportunities for students like me and you, where we can gain insight into our potential health fields during this global pandemic. So pre-health shadowing has the great ability to connect students from not only the US, but all over the world. So go ahead and drop in the chat where you guys are Zooming from today. Wow, awesome. Welcome everybody. Few housekeeping things before we begin. We do send out weekly emails with all of our speakers upcoming for that week, where you can have easy access to register for the session, as well as have the Zoom code sent to you. So if you are interested in receiving those emails, we do not spam. We only send one, maybe 2 emails max a week. This is how you do it. You're going to go to our website, prehealthshadowing.com/join us. And then you are going to mark our emails as important. So you're going to go to your email provider, maybe do a spotlight search for pre-health shadowing. And then once our email pops up, it could be in the spam. You might have to check the junk, maybe mosey on over to the promotions folder. But once you find that, go ahead, you can save us as a contact, as well as mark our emails as important. And this will kind of let your email know that you want all of these emails to go directly to your inbox so that you can find them when they're sent. We do also send out some free and exclusive opportunities. So we are working to create partnerships to expand on our resources that we can provide to you. And so look out for that. We do have some really awesome free resources coming your way. So if you want to get note of that, be sure to sign up on our website. Oh no, so we do have closed captioning for all of our live sessions. And unfortunately, they're currently not activated. So after this, my presentation is over, I will ensure that for the entirety of the presentation today that we will have the captions open, because I cannot share them with my live screen. We are currently partnering with Mask for Mask. And so if you guys are looking for an opportunity to give back to the community, Mask for Mask donates 4 masks for every 4 masks purchased. And so you guys can actually get 15% off if you use the code PHS15 to help us send out masks to people in need. And so this might be people in the homeless community, hospitals that are lacking resources, or just other people who do not have the means to provide for themselves in this global pandemic. And so if you guys are interested, they are a women-led organization. Go support them. You can check out the website, www.mask4mask.com. And 100% of, or 10%, I'm sorry, of the proceeds go to pre-health shadowing to help us keep our website accessible and our program free. So help us if you guys can't donate directly and you want perhaps to get some 4 cool masks out of it, be sure to check out this opportunity. If you are interested in getting published, Pre-Health Shadowing is taking submissions for our new blog. So you guys can write articles, you can write reflections, reviews of the program or a shadowing session, as well as success stories for the opportunity to be published on our official website. So if you are interested, this is only accessible through the URL. So you cannot find this on our website from our main menu. This is exclusive for students who are joining us right now, prehealthshadowing.com/blog submissions. So if you guys are interested in this opportunity, go ahead and take a picture, write down the URL or the slug, and be sure to, get your insight out there. Let them know. Also, Pre-Health Shadowing is starting a student podcast. And so if you are good at video editing, good banter, you are interested in meeting people from across the world, then potentially you can be a part of the Pre-Health Shadowing team. We are a student-led team, and so you guys can connect with like-minded students and work on this. We will let you guys have the link in the chat. So this is a QR code, and I do invite everybody to pull out your phone at this moment and scan your screens. This will take you to the Pre-Health Shadowing website to our donate page. So we are currently taking donations on GoFundMe, Venmo, and via check. Like I said, free program for all of our students. We are student-led, we are a nonprofit, and so everybody that is working to keep pre-health shadowing alive is doing this from the goodness of their heart. Please help us by keeping pre-health shadowing free and accessible to over 17,000 students. So we're really happy that you guys are a part of our journey. Please help us keep it going. And if you are not able to share, if you're not able to donate at this time, we do encourage you to share this link. You can share with family members, you can share with friends, professors, anybody that's looking to see you thrive. High schoolers, listen up. If you wanted to join the pre-health shadowing team, this is for you. We currently have a high schooler training for pre-health shadowing where you will have the opportunity to meet with other high schoolers who are interested in health and actually connect with them and help them develop pre-health shadowing club at various high school campuses across the US. So if you guys are interested in gaining this leadership and outreach experience, you can apply on our website on the Join Me form. At the bottom, you can just indicate that you are interested in joining the HTP program. If you are looking for a mentor, we got you covered. Pre-health shadowing is hosting a mentorship networking event on the weekend of February 19 to 21. Be sure to write that down because it's not on my slide. And it gives you the opportunity to meet with up to 2 established professionals per day of the event. So there's 3 days total, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with a total of 6 professionals potentially per day that you can talk to, connect with. And then if you guys find a good match, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I really enjoyed talking to you. I read some of your work. Can you take me on as a mentee? And maybe they'll say yes, and boom, connection for life. So it's by invite only. And so if you are interested in this opportunity, this is how to gain your invitation. You are going to download 3 pictures from our Google Drive folder. You're going to register as a volunteer on our website. You're going to post this picture on your social media, maybe make your own personal video to go along with it. And then once your bingo board is all filled, you submit it. And then you will gain your invitation to our mentorship networking weekend. So our way to keep pre-health shadowing free for all students is to get you guys involved in our fundraising process. And so if you guys are interested in gaining a mentor, you guys can help us gain the means to keep our website alive so that we can actually host you guys on that Zoom call in the future. If you guys have any questions about this, feel free to leave something in the chat and we'll be sure that one of our team members can answer you. If you guys are interested in helping out and getting involved with our community, pre-health shadowing is taking student volunteers. We have over 1,000 students from all over the world who are helping us virtually with all of our different operations. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. You can expand on a lot of skill sets. If you guys are interested, I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the presentation today. You can sign up on our website, prehealthshadowing.com/volunteer. If you're joining us today, go ahead and post on your social media for an opportunity to get reposted on our official social media accounts. And so you guys can tag us at Pre-Health Shadowing. Show us your setup today. How are you taking notes? With pre-health shadowing, students can take a post-shadowing assessment to receive a certificate that verifies their virtual shadowing hours with us today. So I encourage you guys to take good notes and ask good questions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout the duration of the presentation today, and we will be sure to answer them during the Q&A portion of today's session. Without further ado, I would like to welcome to you our professional for today. Welcome, Dr. Campa. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. I feel like, Nina, you're a tough act to follow. So I'm gonna try and keep the energy that you've started us off with. So hi everyone, I'm Dr. Campa. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to spend the next hour and a half or so with this group. Just as just as a bit of an outline. So I guess we'll do about 45 minutes. I'll give you guys kind of an overview of what I do and some stuff that's important to me. And then we'll do a question and answer session. So feel free to ask me whatever questions come to your mind. I am a physician, but I'm happy to answer questions about any pre-health pathway to the extent I'm able. So my name's Dr. Campa. I am an assistant clinical professor at the University of California, Davis. I am in the Department of Internal Medicine, and my official title is I'm a General Internist, which means that I do general adult medicine, and I'm mainly a primary care doctor, but as we'll get into in a second, I'm kind of I do many different things. So I spend about half of my clinical time in my primary care clinic and the other half in the inpatient unit teaching medical students and residents. And then I also do lots of other stuff, which we'll get into in a moment. So one of the areas of interest and specialty that I have is in the area of diversity and inclusion, and how diversity and inclusion is so important in healthcare, both for you all, who's our pre-health group, who brings so much joy and life into our profession, and really beyond into healthcare, and thinking about healthcare and how can we all work together to do better and take better care of our patients. So we're going to start off with a quick polling question. And many of you answered this in the chat, but just kind of, I wanted to generally get a sense of where everyone is right now. And I apologize if I didn't include all the regions of the United States, but pick the region that you feel most aligns with where you are.
Awesome, great. We're going to leave it open for a couple more seconds. If you did not get your answer in there yet, go ahead and do so. Alrighty, go ahead and take a look around the room.
Great. So it looks like most of us are in the West. I am also in the West. I'm in California in my office in Sacramento. And then many other parts of the country. So thank you for joining us. All right, so we'll get into my professional journey. So I actually am not someone who knew that I wanted to be a doctor from the time I was young. I'm a first generation college graduate, so I'm the first person in my family to go to medical school and to graduate from college. When I was young, the only doctor I had ever met was the doctor that I went to as a child to see a pediatrician. So doctors weren't really in my life in any way. I didn't know anyone that was a doctor personally. There was no one in my family that was a doctor. But I always, as a kid, I loved science. I loved math. I loved people. And I actually loved puzzles. I used to time myself and do puzzles and try and do them as fast as I could. And so I went to college. It was always my goal to go to college. And when I went to college, I also had to work because I didn't have very much money to support myself. So I ended up working two jobs. I went to Loyola Marymount University, which is a school in Southern California. And I worked in admissions in my work study job. And then I had to get a second job. And I got a job at UCLA, and I actually was hired as a filing clerk. And it ended up that I was hired to file for a research study. And in this job was actually when I was exposed to my first mentor, who was a female physician. And she was just this amazing woman. And she was so brilliant and she was so articulate. And we became really, really close. And she was like, "You're so good at math, you're so good at science, and you're so good with people, you should be a doctor." And I was like, "Well, what does that entail?" She says, "Well, you just go take this test and it'll be okay." Well, little did I know that the MCAT's actually a pretty hard test. And it was a little more than I bargained for, but I took a prep course, I took the test. I actually didn't do very well in the first pass. And I took it again, and I think I got 3 points better, which wasn't very much better, but I said, I'll just apply and see what happens. Well, I ended up interviewing at 3 medical schools. And one of those medical schools was the University of California, Davis. And at the time, I actually lived in Southern California, and that's where all my family was, all my friends were. And I was like, Sacramento, I don't know that I want to move to Sacramento, but I'm just going to go do this interview and see how it goes. Well, I walk into my Davis interview and I very quickly meet some of the more amazing people that I've ever met. I was totally blown away by how great the people were, how welcoming they were, how much like me they were. We had kind of similar pathways and similar journeys. And up until this time, I really hadn't met other doctors who looked like me, a similar place as me, or really even cared about the things that I cared about. And so I was like, wow, this is a place I have to go. So I ended up thankfully getting into Davis and going to medical school there. And I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. I probably was as naive as you could be going into medical school. It was a total shock. It was so much work. I was like, oh my goodness, this is really, really hard. Why didn't anyone tell me? Everyone's smarter than me. I don't know that I should be doing this. I probably tried to leave medical school about 5 times. And the running joke is there's a corner that's outside the medical school, and they used to say we used to grab you off the corner and drag you back in because I was always like trying to say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm gonna leave. But I stuck it out, and I'm so glad that I did. I actually ended up meeting my husband while I was in medical school, who is from Sacramento, and he doesn't want to leave Sacramento. And so I went to residency at UC Davis in internal medicine. And again, found myself being amongst really, really smart people. And I think I finally, like, even though I was very overwhelmed by how smart people were, I was like, wow, these people are so amazing. I can learn so much from them. And things finally started to click for me. Kind of more in residency. I love taking care of patients. So that I always enjoyed seeing patients and taking care of them. That was like the best part. And so it's towards the end of my residency program where the program director was like, oh, Olivia, do you want to be a chief resident? And I was like, what? Why do a chief resident? So for all of you who don't know, this is a title that's given to the best residents in the program. And it's always like, oh, this person, they were everyone always brags about it. And I was like, you guys, no, you don't want me to be a chief resident. They were like, no, we really want you to be a chief resident. And I was like, okay, sure, I guess. And that's also how I was introduced to academic medicine. In my chief residency year, I got to learn things about medical education, and I got to do more research, and I got to learn about hospital administration, which has become really like something that I enjoy. I have always battled with imposter syndrome. I have always felt like I don't belong. I have always felt like I'm one of the few people that look like me. And I've actually dealt a lot with racism, discrimination, hatred, and bigotry. And I share with you that because if any of you ever experience this, I just want you to know that you are not alone. You often feel very alone when it's happening. But as I will share with you, the thing that I always hold on to is hope and joy. And that's how I get through it. And this has actually become an area of great interest to me, not only because it affects us as you all as pre-health students and medical students and residents and us within educational systems or really any system. But the most important thing is that it affects our patients. So getting at how do we kind of undo some of these systems of discrimination that we have set up is something that's really, really near and dear to my heart. So I just wanted to, this is probably a small handful of the very impactful people that have made a difference in my career. And I share this to share with you all that having mentors is so, so important. Mentors aren't always going to look like you. They aren't always going to be from the same place that you are from. They aren't always going to have the same interests, but they are going to serve as your guides. Particularly someone like me, I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I don't know how to navigate a professional environment, and I really need a lot of mentorship to help me learn how to do that. And so these are some people who have just played incredible roles in my professional career. So I wear many hats. I first and foremost identify myself as a Latina. I am a general internist. I am the director of the Postbaccalaureate Program. So I run a program that helps pre-health students like you all who are interested in becoming doctors, who maybe don't have as high of a GPA or don't have the educational foundation that you need to get into medical school right away. And so we do some educational equity and coaching and professional development. And I get to run that program, which is we have 20 students a year, and we matriculate 85% of those students into medical school. So it's a very rewarding program that's super fun to work with students and get to know all of the pre-health world, which is a fun world to be in. I am also a medical educator. I teach in the medical school and in the residency program. I'm an innovative thinker. So one of the things that I do within our health system is I take concepts and I implement creative and new concepts. So for example, we wanted to do some telehealth inpatient care delivery. And so we took that concept and we brought it from conceptualization to implementation. And that's the clinical operations side. And I do this work because taking care of patients with these principles of inclusion is so, so important. So as we develop new programming, if we can be creative and thoughtful about all patients from many different backgrounds, I find that to be really, really important. So this is what my week looks like. It's probably maybe as busy as your week, so I'm ripping and running most of the week, but I'm grateful for my job. All right, so we're going to do another poll question here. So how do you see yourself being involved in healthcare in the future? So I can get a sense of kind of who's in the room and what your all's interest is.
Alrighty, guys. A couple more seconds. If you didn't yet get the chance to answer, go ahead and submit. Alrighty. About 90%. Great job, guys. Thanks for participating.
Okay, great. So it sounds like most people want to be doctors. We have some advanced practice practitioners, some nurses, some public health people, and some other. Great. Thank you. All right, so a few objectives for today. We're going to review the importance of diversity and inclusion in medicine, outline some considerations when thinking about working towards change, describe some pathway programs, and describe some different pathways into medicine. All right, so how comfortable are you all talking about issues of racism and discrimination? Okay, as I expected. So usually your generation tends to be more comfortable than even my generation and those a little older than me. So we're going to quickly talk about diversity. So medicine has done a terrible job diversifying our workforce. These numbers are from 2018, so more recent numbers. And then these numbers here are from 10 years prior. And essentially nothing has changed. So our numbers of Hispanic Latino was 5.5% 10 years ago, and now 5.8%. Black or African American, 6.3%. And the numbers actually have gone down in the last 10 years. They're now 5%. And American Indian, Alaskan Natives 0.5 and then 0.1, so also have gone down. So here we're just talking about ethnic diversity, but medicine has not done a good job diversifying the physician workforce. And why is this important? There is a lot of bias that exists. There's bias that exists in all systems, but the reason bias is important in healthcare is because it affects patients' lives. So things like microaggression, subconscious bias, explicit bias, implicit bias, sexism, privilege, all of these different types of biases can be incredibly harmful and hurtful for patients and result in poor outcomes. There hasn't been a better example of this, I think, than the COVID pandemic, which we have seen has just shattered our communities of color. And so we as doctors are charged with how do we do healthcare better and how do we do it in a way that kind of limits these biases and potentially even removes them from the equation. So when we think about healthcare and health disparities, it's a complex issue. So we have economic stability, neighborhood and physical environment, education, food, community and social context, and then we have the healthcare system and how the healthcare system interfaces with all of these different systems. I think that's something that we as doctors and as systems are constantly trying to define and constantly trying to come to terms with, because all of this results in health outcomes. So as a professional, as a healthcare professional, you actually are responsible to be experts in all of these fields because all of these result in the outcomes for your patients. And knowing where it's important to intervene is really, really important. And so why does diversity matter? Well, ethnically diverse patients have better outcomes when they're cared for by racially, ethnically, and or linguistically concordant physicians. And the name of the game is patient outcomes and making sure people are taken care of. Diverse teams have also, so medicine is a team sport. It is, you're always in different types of teams and going from one group to another. Diverse teams have been shown to correlate with better performance and to be more innovative. And this is just a graph from one of the studies that looked at diverse teams and suggested that there was better financial outcomes the more diverse the team was. And so all kinds of people have all kinds of different interests, but money tends to be something that a lot of people care about. And patients, so if patients are getting better and you're saving money and having more innovative healthcare, then it's kind of a natural solution to a really complex problem. So diversity inclusion work, it can be hard in the sense that it's multifaceted. So a lot of people that I work with, a lot of my colleagues, they have one area of interest. Maybe they are an expert in health system finances. Maybe they're an expert in microbiology. And when you do diversity work, you really have to have an expertise in many different many different specialties. So research, business, advocacy, implementation, strategy. And again, at the center of all of this, because the problems that you are asked to address can seem very overwhelming and very big, but maintaining that hope is extremely important. So one of my favorite people, we just celebrated him, Martin Luther King, but the end is redemption, the end is reconciliation. The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of a beloved community, while the aftermath of violence is tragic bitterness. So this is one of my favorite quotes. I love this idea of thinking about beloved communities and how do we create beloved communities in the small spaces that we're in. So like even amongst this group, And how do we create beloved communities in the large spaces we're in? So in a multi-million-dollar healthcare system, can we create a beloved community? And that's something that I and my colleagues are challenged to do. This is a great example of how far we have to go. So this is from the recent protests organized by Black Lives Matter, and then the recent insurrection at the Capitol. And I thought that the imagery is just so important because we have a long way to go. What we saw at the Capitol was an act of discrimination. There was very little police presence. The response was very different than if that was a group of ethnically diverse people storming the Capitol. And so we have a long way to go. Our patients feel this and it affects them deeply. And it's very important to remember that when you're taking care of patients. So how do we do better? Well, the way I argue we do better is we grow and we change and we diversify. So you take a bunch of people with a bunch of different backgrounds and you bring them together and you say, okay, let's build a better mousetrap, do this better, do healthcare better, innovate and change. So part of that is getting into change psychology. So we all are we're going to bring our natural selves to our education and to our workplace. And some of us, a very small percentage of us, are going to be innovators. We're going to be the people that are thinking about the solution before anyone has even talked about the solution. You're kind of 10 steps ahead. Maybe you haven't worried about the consequences, but you have all kinds of ideas about how to solve the problem. So those are our innovators. Our early adopters are going to be the people that are like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and do it. So maybe it's using some course technology in a new way. And you say, okay, yeah, I can learn that and I can do that. Early majority are going to be the people that maybe they're not going to be the first to jump out the gate with implementing the change, but they won't give you any pushback and they'll say, okay, I'll go ahead and try. The late majority, they might take a few months. They'll do it eventually. But when a change is made, usually it takes them a little while to get around to being different. And then you have laggards. Usually laggards are the ones that are kicking and screaming and dragging their feet, and they don't want to change, and they don't care what you say because they're going to do it the way they want to do it no matter what. So we're going to get to another polling question, which is, how would you categorize yourself? Innovator, early adapter, early majority, late majority, or laggard?
All right, awesome. We're going to leave it open for a few more seconds. If you have not answered the poll and you would like to, go ahead and submit it. I'm going to be ending it in a couple seconds. All righty.
All right, so we have a handful of innovators, some early adapters, some early majority, late majority, and a few laggards in the group, which is exactly what the distribution you would expect to see in kind of a group of people. So a few things about change. Change makes people uncomfortable. That is totally normal. I always say our colleagues are not much different from our patients because we're all people. So there's this natural process that most people go through when they think about change. So say you want to implement a new exercise program. We always say it takes about 90 days to change behavior. You might think about your exercise program, what exactly you want to do. And you don't want to get up off the couch, but you're going to sit there and you're going to really plan out this new exercise program. And then you'll really think about, okay, how does this fit into my day? Do I want to do this in the morning, in the afternoon? And then you'll prepare. Maybe you'll go and buy some exercise clothes. And then you're going to jump into action. You're going to get exercising. Then you'll be in your maintenance phase. And in this maintenance phase is when it becomes a part of your routine. Maybe it falls off. Maybe you don't keep exercising, or maybe you integrate it and you are a forever runner. But that is a cycle of change. And most people are going to go through these phases when they think about doing new things. Some people move very quickly through them, but most people are going to go through them in some way. Another thing that's really important when you all are working in groups or working in teams is there is kind of this natural progression of teams coming together, forming, storming, norming, and performing. And so what I always say is if people are fighting, that's okay. Let's let them fight and hold on to it, because that's actually a part of people coming together, is this storming phase. Um, there are many people, when people start to storm, they freak out and they run away and they disappear. But if you can hang on and hold on to it, you might continue through the process and keep working towards your change. Change is not fun, and but it's definitely necessary to doing better. The other thing to remember, and these ideas of having great empathy and compassion are extremely important, and humility. Anyone going into healthcare, please hold on to your humility, because you never know what someone else is going through, and that's really, really important to recognize. So this is the iceberg, where this is all the things you see. Someone might appear to be very experienced, very skilled, have this amazing education, but then there's all these things that you don't see. That's such a big part of their personality. So as you work through change in any system, it's really important to recognize that you're only seeing pieces of people and pieces of what they choose to show you. And if things start getting tough, sometimes it's important to sit down with people and have a conversation and talk and say, hey, what's going on? We are all so busy with our emails and our texts and our Facebooks and our Twitters and our Instagrams that sometimes we forget just to talk to each other. And that talking is actually such an important part of changing together. This is another thing that I like to think about. So in one of my jobs that I do, I have to manage faculty. So I have to tell faculty members, hey, you're not doing your job. And sometimes people have been doctors, like before I was born, they started being a doctor, right? And so people have all kinds of different reactions all the time. And it's important to remember that just because someone seems angry or just because they're upset, it doesn't mean that you should stop moving forward. So these people will cycle through kind of these different emotions, and that's completely normal, and sometimes necessary to get to a better place. But it can be uncomfortable, definitely. So a few tips I have for you all as you kind of enter into this world and think about your professional career is communicate often. Talk to your mentors, talk to your friends, talk to your family members, reflect on yourself, talk with your peers, talk with your colleagues, build trust, be reliable. That's part of building trust. I always say trust is really hard to gain and easy to lose. Find collaborators. So don't go at this alone. If you're trying to do something and trying to do it on your own, it's probably not going to go very well, and you're going to get really tired in the process. So work together. Find allyship. Allyship is a bit different than collaborator in the sense that an ally is going to be someone who complements you. So there are certain things that I need help with. And there are certain times when I have to send in the white man to deliver a message. And so that is my ally. And so it's really important to know who you can go to as you're kind of working through these complex systems. Be open to feedback. It's really hard to hear feedback. It is completely normal to be uncomfortable with feedback, but it's really, really important to be open to hearing someone tell you, hey, you know what, when you did this, it didn't go very well. Can you do a little bit better? Stay humble always. The biggest mistakes I've ever made is when I did not stay humble. So always stay humble and come from a place of humility, and remember the iceberg. Be patient. Maybe the moment is not now. That doesn't mean it's not forever. And don't be scared to fail. So me and my best friend went on a trip together, and there's these waves crashing. We're like going to jump off this cliff and there's waves crashing, and I run and I leap and I jump. And that is my personality. I'm a runner, a leaper, and a jumper. And I turn around and she's standing at the edge looking down, and she's like, I can't do this, right? And it's like, because I run and I leap and I jump, I make a lot of mistakes. And that's totally okay, as long as they're not mistakes that you can't, as long as you're not hurting people. But it's okay to try and make those mistakes. That is totally okay. All right, another polling question. So what is your Myers-Briggs? I don't know if you all have done the formal Myers-Briggs, but introvert versus extrovert, strong introvert, strong extrovert. All right, lots of introverts, interesting. We got some extroverts, but mostly introverts, all right. So it's really important to know yourself, and it's really important to challenge yourself to be different, because that's how you grow. So as you all enter into this crazy world, however you are at baseline, try to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, because you're going to have to ask other people to do the same, whether that's your patients or your colleagues. Okay, let's talk about some pathways into medicine. So I think when I was pre-health, I didn't really understand, a lot of people think about their pathway into their career and they think about a straight line. And what I have to share with you all is it's more like this windy road. It is not a straight line at all. And if it's a windy, twisty, turny road, it's totally normal and it's totally okay. So I think many of y'all are closer to here, which is kind of the community college, maybe transferred to a four-year university or went from high school to a four-year university. And some of you will do a pre-health program. Some of you will do a master's program. Some of you will do a post-bac, and some of you will go from undergraduate to medical school. UME is kind of the term we use, which is undergraduate medical education. And then from medical school, so once people hit medical school, they usually have kind of the four-year trajectory, which is 4 years of medical school. Some people add on a master's, and then they go right into residency. The reason many people do that is because it's very hard to take a lot of time off in between medical school and residency, because you have so much knowledge that you've spent the last 4 years learning that you don't want it to disappear. So many people go right from medical school into residency. Some people will do a chief residency, some additional time as a chief resident. Some people will do a fellowship. So fellowship is going to be subspecialty training of your specialty. And then they'll enter the workforce as a physician. And some people will go into academics. Some people will be community doctors. Some people work in a private sector, like a Kaiser or a Sutter or Dignity Health. So lots and lots of different ways to do this, but it's definitely not a straight line. And again, totally normal. The other part of this is that there might be some painful parts on this road. And there might be some moments where you're like, I don't know if this is for me. All of you at some point are going to think to yourself, I don't know if this is for me. I think I made a mistake. And that's totally normal. There are painful moments. Training for any healthcare professional is hard. The hours are long. You're on your feet. You're exhausted physically and mentally. People aren't very nice. So doctors aren't very nice. I'm nice, but not all doctors are nice. And again, that's a normal experience to have. So don't let that discourage you. And this is all saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. So, there's so many reasons why it could take a little longer. And sometimes the best thing that happens is it takes an extra year or an extra 2 years or an extra 5 years or an extra 10 years. And again, that's totally okay. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you don't have the right group of people around you. But do not lose hope. Please keep going for your dreams. If I can be a doctor, I think anyone in this room could be a doctor. Um, it is so hard, but it is so rewarding and so worth it. Okay, so this is kind of a general overview for getting into any type of professional school. So the things that we look at from an admission standpoint are, this is from the AAMC, which is the governing body of medical schools, experiences, attributes, and metrics. So experiences are going to be your life experiences, where you come from, what you have to bring to the table. Your attributes are going to be kind of your value system, all of the leadership you've done, all of the volunteerism you've done, the things that kind of make you special, like make you who you are. Maybe it's your philosophy, maybe it's how you see the world. And then your metrics, which is an important part. You have to take the MCAT if you want to go to medical school. You have to have a GPA that's decent. But to remember that this metrics, I think there's a lot of emphasis on metrics, but it's a piece of these other things that we look for to help us figure out who's going to be an excellent doctor. Mentoring, please get as many mentors as you can. Talk to as many people as you can. Network. This is a great platform to do that. So thank you so much for those who organize this. It's awesome. Being a health professional is lifelong learning. You are always learning. So be curious, keep learning, push yourself to learn more, and don't do it just for a grade, but do it because it's so important, and you want to be the best doctor for your patients, or the best nurse practitioner, the best PA for your patients, or the best nurse for your patients later on. Becoming a mentor, one of the more fulfilling things that I do is I get to be a mentor, and you learn so much about yourself through talking to other people and hearing about their journeys. The other piece of advice I have is, when you're an undergraduate, do not stretch yourself too thin. Focus on your school, because the more focused you can be and the better you can do in your undergraduate classes, it will actually open so many more doors for you. And there's always time. You can always take extra time. You can take time after you graduate to volunteer, to work in a hospital. But that time of undergraduate is so important to focus on the grades, because some people will come to me and they're like, my GPA is low, but I want to be a doctor. And I talk to them and I get to know them. I'm like, they would be excellent doctors. And then I'm like, there's nothing we can do about this GPA. It is so low. So focus on your coursework, get the help you need, go to tutoring, go to office hours, keep asking for help until you get those grades that you're looking for, that you feel represent you. This is also one of my favorite sayings. You'll never be like the little engine that could if you sit around on your caboose. So keep it moving, y'all. All right, so let's stop there and do some questions.
Awesome, great. Well, we will go ahead and get started. So if any of you guys are interested in asking your own question, feel free to privately message myself or Isaac Thatcher your question. And then if we give you the okay, feel free to go ahead and raise your hand, and then we can then call on you. If not, we will be going through the questions in the chat. Feel free to continue dropping questions. And we are going to start off with, how have you incorporated your identity of being a Latina with your identity of being a doctor?
Yeah, so I would say that took a very long time to reconcile. It took me a long time to feel like I fit in. I don't know that there's an approach to doing it. I think that what I started doing was, I just started believing in myself, and I started saying, like, I belong here. And the other thing is that my patients always are so grateful. They're always like the best part of my day. But there are moments when I feel like, when it comes to my colleagues, I don't really fit in. And I think I had this moment when I was like, if I keep holding myself back. I'm never going to do all of these things that I want to do for the betterment of my patients. And so for me, I think some advice I give to young women physicians is always make people address you by doctor. Like a lot of people walk in the room, and even administrative assistants, they'll say, oh, Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, hi, Olivia. And I say, you cannot call me Olivia. My name is Dr. Campa. So it's really, really important. It's okay to own your title and to be proud of that title. You worked really, really hard for it. And to remind people that they will respect you and use your title. So I always suggest to people, especially young people, to make sure that you reinforce your title. And I'll always be Latina, so I don't have to give that up.
Thank you. The next question is, why do you think many doctors struggle with empathy?
Oh, okay. So there's this thing where it's people come into medical school. So pre-health people are usually the most inspiring people to talk to. And then people come into medical school with very high levels of empathy. By the time they leave medical school, their empathy has decreased by about 30%. By the time they leave residency, their empathy has decreased by about 70%. And so I say that because if all of you will just hold on to your empathy, you're going to give healthcare such a better, it will be such a better situation. But doctors, I think that what happens is there is this culture within medicine, and it's almost discouraged to be empathetic. It's almost encouraged to be uniform. Like, well, this is how a doctor acts. This is how a doctor talks. And it's like, my response to that is, well, this is how I act and this is how I talk. And I'm a doctor. So why can't the way I act and talk be like how a doctor acts and talks, or what a doctor looks like? So I think that it's been just such a uniform profession for so long that it's going to take many different types of people coming into the profession, changing the face of it and changing the identity of it. You don't have to be miserable. You could work really hard and love taking care of your patients and love your job and maintain your empathy, and that's totally fine. So I do think that there is some culturalization that happens within medicine where doctors feel like they have to fit in, and part of that is losing their empathy.
So sorry, I'm out here in the chat. And so for those of you who I responded to, feel free to utilize at the very bottom, there is a reaction button. If you click that reaction button, there is a raise hand function. So if you have already gotten your question approved, you may go ahead and utilize that button, and then we will call on you. I'm gonna go ahead and allow Danielle, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, hi, I'm Danielle. I just had a quick question. So I'm a junior pre-med student at Baylor right now. And obviously, like, I'm in the middle of about to take the MCAT and just almost done with all my coursework and everything. So I was wondering what the best advice that you had for someone like me who's about to go on the next step of applying to medical school, and just really how to boost my application and how to, like, get the best I can during the pandemic and everything.
Yeah, the pandemic has been hard for pre-health students in the sense that it's much harder to find like shadowing opportunities or scribing opportunities because they're not allowing a lot of people into healthcare that aren't like licensed practitioners. And so, I guess my biggest advice is that if the pandemic or for whatever reason there is a bit of a delay, don't let go of your goals and hold on to it and ride the wave. It's going to get better and things will get back to normal. So that would be my biggest advice. And then, trying to study for the MCAT, taking a full set of classes, that's actually a really hard thing to do. Even if you're like an amazing, brilliant, have a photographic memory, that's really, really hard to do. So it's great if you're able to do that, but if you need to wait on the MCAT or take it over summer break or whatever it is, whatever your timeline is, that's also completely fine. So we always say that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like when you look back, when you're 40 years old and you say, oh, that one gap year I took, like you're not even, it's probably going to reflect on it and be like, oh, that was the best year of my life because I got to do whatever I wanted to do. And so, it's a very long journey, and just take your time and be patient.
Thank you. Samantha, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Dr. Campa. First of all, thank you so much for speaking today. It's been really awesome. I wanted to ask, what's a good way to go about asking someone to be a mentor? And also, what are qualities to look for in a good mentor?
Yeah, so probably the most important qualities in a good mentor is they respond to you. So what you'll realize is that people are really, really busy. They only have, so much time. And so sometimes they're just not going to be responsive. And don't take that personally. It's never personal. It's always just that they're overworked and overloaded. So when you meet someone and you feel like you form a connection with them, asking them, hey, can I continue to message you and ask you questions as they come up? That's the best way to do it. And the other thing I really like is I have students who, like, for 6 years have been sending me annual updates. And in their annual updates, they just tell me, like, this is what happened in my year, this is what's going on. And we talk once a year. And then I kind of know what's going on with them because they send me their update. And then we check in and I say, how are things going with this or that? And then I say, these are some things I'd recommend you do. And then they go off and do them. And then I get the next annual update. And they've actually worked on those specific things that we talked about. And so I think that's a great way to access mentorship. Is you might not be able to talk to someone all the time, but even once a year. And if you send them, like, here are the things I'm doing, do you have any suggestions? Like, ask them, a simple question that they could respond to fairly quickly, but give them the information about what you're up to. People love to read stuff like that.
Maya, you can go ahead and ask your next question.
Hello, doctors. Thank you very much. Your story is very inspiring me. I have just immigrated into the US last year and taking pre-medical courses. I'm Vietnamese, so I feel connecting with your story. So my question is, my race and my age, 35 years old, has family and being new to the US healthcare. What do you think the challenge I will need to work on to apply for medical school? And what do you advise me from your experience as a Latino woman? Me, I'm Asian woman, and I was not born here.
Yeah. So, I think if you want to be a doctor or a PA or an NP or whatever it is that you want to do, if that's what you want to do, then you shouldn't let where you're born or how many kids you have or how old you have get in the way of that. So you just maintain your focus and you don't let anyone tell you any different. It's really good to be really stubborn, and it's good to just, like, stay the course, because usually you're going to get to where you want to go. I think that it can be hard, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So my biggest piece of advice for you is just to keep going and not be bothered if anyone discourages you. Just, that's their opinion. And you just stay focused and keep going and keep making adjustments to your coursework or whatever it is that you need to take the next step in your career, because the career belongs to you. So when you're I always think about, like, when I'm on my deathbed, am I going to regret getting in trouble because I didn't listen to my boss? No. But would I regret not doing something that I felt was so important for me to do? Yes. So
Thank you very much, Dr. Olivia.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Lean, you can go ahead and ask your next question.
Hi, Dr. Olivia. I had a question regarding I just wanted to ask how do you recommend us getting a more, I know it's hard during COVID, but how else would you recommend us to get a more personalized experience, and hopefully like a letter talking about that experience, like to provide for when we apply to med schools and stuff. I feel like it's really hard with COVID, and I'm personally struggling to find that.
Yeah. Do you mean with your professors or with a work experience?
Like with professors, it's a bit easier, but if you're, since like in-person shadowing opportunities are not as abundant right now, it's kind of hard to get that experience from a doctor.
Right. Yeah, no, completely. There are, I guess one thing that I would suggest is that there are like very specific COVID opportunities that are coming up for unlicensed people. So all of you would be considered kind of unlicensed people. And so looking at like, is there telehealth or is there kind of distance stuff you can do for a healthcare system that's close by where you are, because there's such a strong need for volunteers in so many different areas. That might be a way for you to build a connection. And then whoever you work with, if you can just get some FaceTime, and even if it's just Zoom time, to check in with them. And that might be something you ask at the very beginning. Like, is there any way that we can, spend some time once a week checking in, or once every other week checking in? And when you check in with that person, you can bring some questions, but also share some information about yourself. And that can be a way of building a relationship. So oftentimes you do have to be a little bit bold, and it might feel awkward to be asking for things, and usually people will tell you if they don't have the time to do something once a week, they'll say, well, maybe we can do it every other week. But many people that they kind of understand that you're wanting to build a connection. And so that might be a way to do it. So looking for COVID opportunities, looking for telehealth opportunities, and then unlicensed, like they have health coaches, or like in population health, they have people that are kind of doing case management that are unlicensed level people. That's becoming more and more popular. So those could be some distance activities and jobs that might be available.
Can you talk a little bit about what case management is?
Sure. So case management is helping patients navigate the healthcare system. So as you all know, or I don't know how much you've experienced any part of the healthcare system, but it's extremely complicated. And many people have a hard time knowing, like, where do they call to get their x-ray, and where do they call, say they have to see 4 different specialists. So a case manager would review the doctor's notes and then talk with the patient and work with them on getting their appointment set up, getting their transportation set up. So that's what case management does.
Thank you. Kiera, you can go ahead and ask your next question.
Hello. So I wanted to ask, like, how do you deal with like the balance between your career goals and like your personal aspirations? Because like for me personally, like I've always wanted to travel, but I still do want to be a physician and working with patients. So like how do you go like in your career person, like trying to find that balance between who you are in your career and just who you are as like in what you find joy in?
Yeah. So yeah, I actually love to travel, Kira, and I travel a ton. And so I think that the biggest piece of it is you have to hold on to those things that are important to you. And there might be times when you can't do everything you want to do. So there have definitely, like when I was a medical student, I had no money. I had no way to travel. I had no time to travel, but I knew that there was going to be an end. And in 4 years, I was going to be done. And when I went into residency, I had weeks off. I got 4 weeks off a year, and I had an income that was actually a reasonable income. And so I had to wait and do those things maybe a little bit later than some of my friends, but I got to do those things. And I've traveled a ton with my husband. So I would say that, never let go of the things that you love to do, and then try to find those times where you can do a little bit of it. But if it's something that's really important to you, you might build your career around those things. So for an example, I love being a primary care doctor, but I also hate working nights. And so I knew that I had to do something where I wasn't in the hospital at night, because I do not like to work nights and my husband hates it too. And so I think it's really, so I specifically started building my career around this 8 to 5 schedule, because that was something really important, not only to me, but to my husband. And so it also starts getting complicated when someone else is involved in your life, because then you have to think about them too. And then other people like children and family and all of that. But I keep a really, really tight schedule. I make sure that during my working hours, I try not to work outside of my work hours. And then during my working hours, I'm really focused. And then I try to make sure and hold on to the things I love. Like I still play softball. Well, not right now because it's a pandemic, but in my normal time, I play softball. Even though I'm getting a little old and it's a little hard to run around those bases, but I still play because that's really fun for me to do.
Thank you.
Awesome. Ariana, go ahead and ask your question next.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really moving, especially now. I'm going to be a senior here at my university and it's very nerve-wracking. But my question is, have you ever worked alongside a physician's assistant? And also, how was that experience for you?
Yes, I actually work with, so because I do so much teaching, I also teach physician assistants and nurse practitioners. And I've had great experiences. I like teaching and I like people. So I'm probably not someone who's not going to have a good experience, but I have found that the nurse practitioners and physician assistants I work with have a great foundation, have a lot of knowledge. There might be some details that when you work with a physician assistant, it's more like an apprenticeship where they have kind of this framework, but there might be some details that are missing. And so making sure that if you're thinking about being a physician assistant, you find a doctor to work with who's willing to teach you. That can be really important because you don't want to be out there on your own feeling like you're hurting people. And so it's really important to kind of find the right environment and work alongside people who want to be helpful. Even as an MD, my first few years out of residency, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so much harder to do on my own. So being able to work in an environment where I could ask people for help was really, really important. And that helps you be a better practitioner too.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olivia.
Thank you. Alice, can you ask your question?
Hi, Dr. Olivia. I just want to ask, what's your favorite part about internal medicine as opposed to general surgery or other fields like pediatrics? Yeah.
So for me, it was more of an issue of the things I didn't like to do. So I do not like being in an operating room because you have to stand there and be quiet. And I'm terrible at being quiet. So I'd always get yelled at because they would be like, you can't talk. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? I've been in here for 3 hours holding this thing. And you guys just want me to be quiet. They're like, we're going to kick you out. I said, kick me out, please. Then I could go talk somewhere else. So for me, being in an operating room was like not my cup of tea. I'm just too antsy to be able to stand still for that long. And then pediatrics, I'm not good with kids. I have adult level jokes. I would tell the kids adult jokes and then they would be like, you can't talk about those things with the children. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I thought it was funny. I was trying to make them laugh. And so I wasn't a natural fit for kids. And then internal medicine versus family medicine, I actually really like critical care medicine. I like intense environments. And so I wanted to have training in an ICU and to be able to do really high level medicine. And so that's why I ended up choosing internal medicine, was because of that. So yeah, but so it kind of starts out with like a lot of people say, okay, surgical, non-surgical is a decision point. And then within, you have surgical specialties and then kind of non-surgical specialties. And then which of those do you closest align with? I actually don't really fit in with internists. A lot of my colleagues are very nerdy and very boring. I love them, but they're nerdy and boring, and I'm always talking away. But I really love the medicine part of it. And so it's a really great field for me personally because it's a lot of complicated medicine, and I really like that.
Just like another question, General, how stressful do you think the life of a surgeon versus the life of an internist?
Oh, I think the life of anyone in any doctor is really stressful, and can be more like, okay, so your life is going to be as stressful as you make it. And I say that because you can, as a doctor, you're going to make a lot of money. I don't know about all y'all, but growing up, like my parents didn't make very, very little money. So when I see my paycheck, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of money. And so you could work full time. You could work 50% time. You could work 30% time. There are people that work 25% time and they still make like a normal, like healthy salary. And so that's a really nice thing about being a doctor is you make a really high salary and then you can kind of adjust your time. And then you can also choose to have a really intense career that's really stressful or something that's like not so intense and not so stressful. If you look at, there's people who get, specialties that get sued a lot and they're in court a lot. I don't happen to be one of those specialties because I hate talking to the lawyers. And so, it just depends on kind of what you like and what you're up for. But your life can be as stressful as you want it to be. And it can be, you could be cool as a cucumber on the beach. There's psychiatrists that work from their house on the beach, not even in the same town that they work in. So they're cool as a cucumber, living their best life.
Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you so much. Alexandra, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, doctor. Thank you for sharing your story. I was just wondering how many shadowing hours you would recommend. I've heard a wide variety of like ranges, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, shadowing is a tough one. I think so. If you think about experiences and like you can have intense experiences and then you can have lengthy experiences. So shadowing is viewed a little bit as not as intensive of an experience. So you'd probably have to do more shadowing because it's not as intensive an experience. So hours, probably like 250, 300 hours around there would be viewed as a good amount. If I had to give you a number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ifioma, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Dr. Campa. Thank you so much for your presentation. So I'm actually a public health major, so a lot of what you were talking about kind of was in a line with what I've been learning. So I was curious to know, like, as a physician, do you use your role to like support any public health initiatives or anything like that?
Yeah, so I do a fair amount of advocacy work, and advocacy can be defined actually in many different ways. But a lot of the work I do is actually working in conjunction with the Department of Public Health within our region. And so there's, if you think about politics, there's actually many different approaches to impacting and implementing change. And one of them is working with other people. So there's kind of this group of really amazing women, and we're all women of color. And there are initiatives that we will kind of decide that we're going to all work on, and then we'll attack it from many different levels. So from the Department of Public Health, from the academic level, from the community level, and then from some community work group level. And what it's done is it allows people to be very unified in making change, and the change, because of that, I think we're able to move things forward within our region. So I work pretty closely with the Department of Public Health in that capacity, but it's not like a formal, I don't have any formal title. It's just like I call my homegirls and I'm like, hey, what are we going to do about this? And we figure it out.
Thank you. Kalyani, if you would like to ask your question next.
Hi, Dr. Campa. How are you? I have two questions. How difficult is it to get into academic medicine? And will any past research or hospital work be of any use or any help? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, so academic medicine, it's a bit about timing. There's not always jobs, but if you can do something where there is a need, so a few things. One, it's good to have, like, it's good to build your networks and know people. And if there is, if you're like, no, I really want to do academic medicine, doing as much research as you can be really, really helpful. And then most people will do a research fellowship at some point in their training, either in medical school, they'll do like an MPH or a master's in science, or after residency, they'll do some form of a research fellowship. So if you can start building as much research experience as possible, as early as possible, then that can be very, very helpful. And then as far as getting a job, it's very variable in the sense that, like, for me, my chair, who's my boss, we call him a chair, he actually built a job for me. And I really was surprised because I was like, he was like, what do you want to do? We'll just create a job for you. But that's not common. There was a need, like there was a need for more diverse faculty. There was a need for someone who did the type of work that I did. And so that's not always the case. So oftentimes it's like who you know and networking. And then if whatever institution you go to, whether it's medical school or residency, if you can build relationships and then maintain those relationships, then those relationships could actually also be very helpful when it comes time to looking for a job.
Thank you. That's great advice. Siobhan, if you would like to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Campa, for sharing your amazing and inspiring story. It was so great to hear from you. And so I do have a question about, so a little background about me. I'm currently a nursing student here at University of Portland, but I'm thinking about switching to maybe pre-med or possibly biology. And I might also, there's a chance that I might also go through with the full nursing program and then maybe later down the line, go towards a post-bac to transition into medicine. Though I'm really on the fence and open to what the future brings and new experiences. As you said, the path towards healthcare education is a winding path. And I know you work with both nurses and doctors and teach both, I believe is what you said. And so I had a question about what are the philosophical differences between nursing practice and medicine practice that make the two fields sort of unique and distinct?
Yeah, I think there used to be a lot more differences. I think in the more traditional, 20, 30 years ago, there was this extremely strong hierarchy, right? It was like doctors tell nurses what to do, nurses say yes no matter what the doctor says, and carry out the order. A lot of that has actually changed and adjusted. And I think maybe stereotypically it's thought that nurses care more about the whole person and doctors care more about the disease processes. But what we're seeing is that there's a lot more collaboration across nursing professionals and physicians. And a lot of that hierarchy is actually disappearing, which has been very difficult for some people to handle. So, you know, my philosophy is, if you think about what you want to do and where you want to be, not only like tomorrow, but in 10 years, and then you think about what degree is going to get you there, then that should be the degree that you pursue. So, you know, and there's plenty. I actually have right now someone in my post-bac program who has her RN and decided to go to medical school. So there's many people that have a background in nursing and then decide to become doctors. And with any experience, you're going to bring that experience, and that's going to actually help the people around you, because you're going to bring your perspective with you. And so I don't think it's like one is better than the other. I think that they're just different, and it's different roles. But if you say you wanted to be like a hospital administrator, there are plenty of nursing leaders who are hospital administrators. There are plenty of physician leaders that are hospital administrators. There are plenty of non-licensed people who become hospital administrators. So it really depends on kind of where you see yourself in 10 years, which can be a hard question to answer and might take some time to formulate, which is okay.
Thank you so much for your insightful answer, Dr. Campa.
Thank you. Next up, Abby, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. So personally, one of my biggest goals in terms of going into the healthcare profession is promoting equity for immigrant communities and minorities. And so my question is, are there any discrepancy in terms of access to healthcare that you have seen within immigrant communities and minority groups?
Yes, huge. I mean, I think that access is a massive problem. Insurance and care delivery is a massive problem. You know, to have communities of color that do not, just like they don't have grocery stores, there's no clinics nearby. So if you're interested in kind of working on health disparities, there's tons and tons of work that needs to be done. Healthcare has not done, just like we haven't been able to diversify the workforce, we haven't been able to touch health disparities in many, many years. So there's lots of room for innovation and growth and doing things differently, and being more thoughtful and being more inclusive in how we set our systems up and how we deliver care. So Abby, come on and join us. We got lots of openings. Yeah, lots and lots of work to be done. And you can do it in so many different ways. It's a problem that's so big that there's so many different approaches to attacking the issue and kind of chipping away at the problem.
Thank you very much.
Definitely, thank you. Amy, you can go ahead and ask your question next.
Hi, Dr. Campa. Thank you for the insight and lessons you've shared this evening. They've really resonated with me. So in terms of my question, I'm somebody that really enjoys teaching as a tutor, and I'm hoping to pursue academic medicine. So I wanted to know what the process looks like in terms of transitioning from being a practicing physician to a teaching physician, and is it possible to do both?
Yes. So there's lots of different, like Kaiser is an example of a private system that has now a medical school and has residency programs. And so there's many different ways to be an educator and be a physician. Working in an academic institution is one way, and you know, you're connected to a medical school, you're connected to residency programs, you're connected to nurse practitioner programs. There are private sector where you can be like a physician who has a medical student or a few medical students come and be in their clinic with them and teach them. or being in a private practice like Kaiser, where there is an educational system set up in it. So those are some options. VAs, which are the Veterans Administration, the government health system, also has a fair amount of teaching that's built, teaching opportunities. So if teaching is really important to you, it's just finding a job where there are some teaching opportunities kind of built into it. And usually there's a few different options on that front.
Thank you so much. At this time, we are about to wrap up. Do you have any final advice for our pre-health students here today?
I would just say, hold on to your dreams, hold on to your goals. Don't let anyone derail you, and keep moving forward. And remember, it's not always easy, but being a healthcare provider is one of the most rewarding jobs that you can do, in my opinion. And so I wish you all the best of luck. And if there's anything I can do to help you on your journey, please let me know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for my students, please stick around if you guys are interested in gaining your certificate that verifies your virtual shadowing hours today. I will be going over that at the end of today's presentation. But first, I do have some very important info before you guys all start dropping out. Please make sure to stagger your test taking. So we had a very large load of students with us today. Unfortunately, like I had mentioned earlier, we are a student-led, student-based nonprofit organization, and we are running solely off of your donations. And unfortunately, we do not have the funds to upgrade our website to support a large number of people like we have here today. So you risk crashing. And if you guys crash and use your 2 tries, you will not be able to complete the post-shadowing assessment. So if you want to play it safe, I recommend staggering when you are taking your post-shadowing assessment. So if you can, wait 15 minutes, wait 30 minutes. If you want to wait 24 hours, we will be uploading the video from today's session on our YouTube channel and our website. So you guys can rewatch the session, get a refresher. I hope you guys took some great notes, but that is just some important info that I did want to throw out at you. We have been having website crashes in the past, and it is really difficult to address all of those issues. And so I really do recommend trying to stagger it as much as you can. And then just to keep in mind, like Dr. Campa said, it's always great to kind of reflect on all of the activities that you're doing. And so one thing that I recommend for all of my fellow pre-health students is to take a moment and kind of think about why you came here today. Why did you log into this Zoom? And what part of today's presentation really resonated with you? What are 3 key takeaways that you got from here today? And how are you going to utilize that in your daily life? And so you don't have to turn these in or anything to get credit, but if you are interested in getting published on the official pre-health shadowing website, you can submit your reflection. The link is at the bottom, prehealthshadowing.com/blog submissions. So you guys can submit these. We do have our editor-in-chief, Muntaha, which will go through and give you insight on your work if there are any revisions that need to be done. And then we will get you posted on our official website where you can add it to your LinkedIn. You can, put it in your portfolio. It's definitely something that's great to have out there. So all of my volunteers, please listen up. We are having our very first Volunteer Connection Day on January 24th. It'll be at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It was not noted in here. So you have the chance to kind of meet the other students who are involved in pre-health shadowing. We will have a Kahoot and you will be able to win some prizes. So if you guys are interested, these will be shipped out if you guys win. So check it out. You can RSVP for this event. If you go to our Instagram at pre-health shadowing, click the link in our bio. It will take you to the link tree. It's the very first or second link. And then you can RSVP and hold your spot. We will be sending further information about the Zoom. So if you guys are a volunteer and want to meet other volunteers and meet the board, meet the team members, be sure to RSVP for this. Like Dr. Campa was saying during her presentation, mentors are crucial. If you guys do not have a mentor and you would like a mentor, Pre-Health Shadowing is doing a mentorship networking weekend, which is 3 days, like I said, and you have the opportunity to meet with up to 6 professionals. It is invite only, and so if you are interested, the website prehealthshadowing.com/mentorshipbingo1 is what you're gonna do to see all of the different information that you need to participate in our event. If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to email us at volunteers@prehealthshadowing.com. Don't forget to tag us in your posts whenever you do anything cool at Pre-Health Shadowing, and use the hashtag #PreHealthShadowing. We do repost our students, and so if you guys want to make any content for us or are just doing some awesome stuff in the world, be sure to tag us and we can check it out. All right, like I had said, we have to ask you guys to stagger when you take the post-shadowing assessment because we do not have the funds to upgrade our website to carry the amount of people that we are currently providing for. Pre-Health Shadowing recently hit 17,000 students. And while we are so happy that you are joining us on this journey, I feel so bad that not everybody can join us in the Zoom call or take the quiz at the end to receive their certificate. So please help us for the students who don't have any opportunities available to them, who aren't able to donate. Please provide for the other students in need right now. I humbly ask all of you to please scan this QR code, and this will actually take you to a different link. This is going to be to join our GoFundMe team. So rather than donating, I'm asking you to join us on board as we work to fundraise money for Pre-Health Shadowing. And if you send out a lot of links, you can actually get volunteer hours, verified volunteer hours, may I add. You can get a certificate upon request. So please, please, please help us out. We really want to do our best in making a change in this world, in fighting inequity in health education, so we can promote diversity in the various fields. Please help us by sharing this link. We are taking applications to join our student team. So we are a 100% remote, student-based, student-led, woman-led organization. It gives the opportunity to meet with like-minded students and professionals. You can gain professional skills, leadership opportunities, and kind of develop your own academic growth as well. It looks awesome on applications, may I add. And so if you're interested, you can apply on our website. You can also scan this little QR code that I have for you here. On our website, you can go to the contact bar, and underneath it'll say join our team. We understand that you guys are all pre-health students and time is not something you carry in your back pocket. I get it. If you still want to get involved but do not have the time to commit, that is okay. You can still help out. So you can actually work from home on your own time for as many or as few hours as you would like. We have a completely asynchronous plan for some of our volunteers. We also have hands-on opportunities. So if you're looking to propose your own project or lead an activity, maybe you're really good at web design, maybe you're really good at video editing, maybe you're really passionate about making TikToks, hop on in. We are here for you. We are a group of students looking to change the world. So come on out and help us. You can sign up on the website, prehealthshadowing.com/volunteer. There's a short training just to get you caught up on what's happening, and then you're good to go. So check it out. It's really easy, really accessible, and it's for a good cause, y'all. So our upcoming shadowing sessions, we have a shadowing session with Dr. Alvarez tomorrow at 2:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys want to keep up with all of the virtual shadowing sessions, and especially if you're in a different time zone, you can sync to our Google Calendar, which will automatically input every single session even before it's uploaded to our website. So if you guys are interested in this exclusive access, you can download our Google Calendar and sync it, prehealthshadowing.com/Google-calendar. If someone could drop that in the chat for others, that would be super helpful. The slug is Google-calendar. Thank you guys. All right, last but not least, this is how to get your certificate that verifies your virtual shadowing hours. You are going to want to go to our website, prehealthshadowing.com, and you are going to find Dr. Campa in the upcoming speakers or on all speakers. You might have to do a search for it. Once you find her, you have 30 minutes and 2 tries to get over a 70% on the post-shadowing assessment. Once you do so, please don't forget to click Finish Course. Once you do that, you will receive your certificate. It will be available to download immediately and can always be found in your profile under the Certificates tab. If you guys experience any issues or have any questions, feel free to email us at info@prehealthshadowing.com, and we will try to get back to you as quick as possible. Please be mindful that this is a student-led organization and I just started class, so I might be a little late on responding to your emails, but they are all really important to me and I will be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you again, Dr. Campa. It was amazing to host you. This is the end of our virtual shadowing session. I invite you to disconnect from the call.